Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for letting me interview you today.
Of course, my pleasure.
So, I want to start off asking about the Volo.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure thing.
How was that?
We had such a blast. I didn't know what to expect, but I really loved how many generations of fans there were for Rockafire. So it was people that were even older than I am because I started playing Mitzi when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were already Rockafire fans that were kids when I was 11 that were even older. But then what was so cool about it is some of their kids are fans or people who've just discovered it from YouTube or who've discovered it from, other online presence. And so then there were everything from people in their 50s to little kids. So it was really amazing. It was such an incredible day of music and celebration. We just had a blast.
It looked really fun. I saw a couple clips online. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was neat as we were performing live.
Mhm.
And then we were also enjoying the new show tape
Yeah.
because Volo ordered the first new show tape in 30 years. So we had recorded that, months ago. So we got to see the fruits of our labor on the stage too, in the characters.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel recording the first show tape in 30 years?
It's funny. It was in a different setting because my husband and I were lucky enough to even get to do the vocal arrangements for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the studio that we normally work in with my company. So it was very familiar and comfortable and almost like what we do on a weekly basis or, every few weeks. But it was super special because it was revisiting my childhood job.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to listen for those characters and hear even in Aaron had done some scratch vocal work to show us where everything went, and to get to hear him as Billy Bob and hear Looney Bird and hear some of his character voices, knowing that that's where we were all headed, that we were all layering voice by voice. It was really, really cool. All these years later.
Yeah. Well, how did you get the role of Mitzi?
I love this story because I was so young and yet I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was the first really cool opportunity I had gotten as a professional vocalist outside of my family. So I was performing with my family on a regular basis and was traveling and singing with my mom and dad who were professional singers. So it was a very natural thing that happened for us where I became the third part in our act. So I was happy and fulfilled and really enjoyed that. But to get recognized for something regular outside of that, I was doing little kid voiceover things every now and then, but to get to do something on a regular basis that was just mine was so special at that age. I did a little kid voiceover as a choir with a handful of my friends for Child of the Rock. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with Duke's song Child of the Rock, but there are kid voices on it. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the kid voices. And when I came in, Aaron was not there that day. But when I came in, the other engineers and other people, even Sal, mm-hmm. who did Fastest Voice, was there that day, and Duke, who did Duke's voice. And they came back and apparently they told Aaron there was a girl in the session that really might be a good fit for Mitzi. So I got a call a few days later to come audition for Mitzi. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was wearing a little white sailor dress because I was just 11 and I was a little girl. And I had barrettes in my hair. So I sang and we did Tomorrow and Maybe from Annie. And my dad played acoustic guitar while I sang. And then they started talking business, started talking money and numbers and, how often I might work and all those things. And I was interested, but I also was a little bit let's let the adults work this out, but kind of keep an ear to it. So I remember sitting there just like it was yesterday, and I was playing with my barrette in my hand, and I was kind of listening in, what's going to happen? Is this going to be my life now? But I'm just playing with a barrette. So I go away from that audition. Nothing was finalized. And then I got a call. I went away out of town, And I got a call a week later, and it was Aaron on the phone. And he said, "Hey, are you old enough to take bad news?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you're not going to have to because you got the job."
Well, that's a really awesome story. Like, I can tell that you really had fun voicing Mitzi.
It was really a coming of age thing. Like from the time I was 11 to 18, pretty regularly I was in the studio, which really became my happy place and still is. I love the studio. I've done a lot of album work with my vocal band Toxic Audio since then. We have 4 albums and a 5th one is Vox Audio. And then I even have a solo album, Shalisa James. It's called 5 Decades. But the studio really became super comfortable for me. I got really quick. And it really led me to a career getting to do jingles and commercials and even demo recordings for projects. So it was a great way to grow up in the studio.
Have you enjoyed voicing Mitzi, like on and off, kind of, for this long?
I have, and it's nice that she's still mine. After all these years, it really is cool. The camaraderie of the original cast. We would get in a room together without a script. Like a lot of the skits that you hear or the introductions you hear in between songs was really a product of us saying, okay, we have to get from point A to point B. These are the things that we probably want to talk about. Or this is how you're feeling right now, or this is what your character is going through. But we would just get in a room and jam out. So we really became very good friends, almost like a family. And it was a unique situation because it was all adults except for me.
Yeah.
And it was all males except for me. So I really got to be friends with, I just had several big brothers, is what it felt like.
How was it being the youngest in the studio?
It's funny, especially when I was really young, they looked out for me to the point where they would even censor their speech. And if they did, like, say a curse word or get angry at somebody, or, they try to keep everything very upbeat and pleasant. It's like, oh, Shalisa's here. But then whenever they did, did break that, they would be like, oh, I'm so sorry, so sorry. And I started becoming like, no, it's okay. I want to be one of you. And I'll take my chances here. And as I got older and became really I became one of the guys. And it's funny because even to this day, I say so many things that I have done professionally. I've been the only female in the room a lot of times. And especially early on, I was the youngest one in the room many times. So it really kind of shaped my personality and shaped me making the hang and shaped the idea that, no, I want you just to be yourselves and let loose, and I'll fit in. I'll figure out how to fit in with this.
So, when you were younger and voicing Mitzi while you were in school, did anyone in your school know that you were doing this?
Yes, and it was kind of a mixed bag. Some people were jealous, and it was, kind of obvious by their behavior. Sometimes it manifested itself as teasing me a little bit, which is understandable. But then some people just thought it was really cool and wanted to talk about it. And then, if I had been in the studio the night before, I would come in and they would say, so what happened? Tell me what you're recording. Tell me what songs. You do also find out who your real friends are that like you for you, because they're not necessarily the ones that are only asking about that. So I learned very quickly how to determine who my real friends were. But it was fun because I had a job, and it wasn't a job that got in the way of things like a 9-to-5 job would. They really worked around my schedule and did a great job. So I had a very normal teenage life. And even like, I laugh because some of the cheers that Mitzi did or cheer references, I was actually a cheerleader.
Oh, wow.
And then in high school, I moved on to dance corps and was captain of my dance team. So a lot of the vernacular and the, oh my God kind of stuff really was what was going on in my life in high school or middle school at the time. It was somewhere between 6th grade and 7th grade when I started voicing Mitzi. And especially that first year back, I had never had my own money before. So I was starting to make a little bit of money, and I took myself clothes shopping. So I almost reinvented myself, gave myself like a little makeover, and whenever a little glow up, if you will. And so whenever I showed up for school for 7th grade, people were like, "Oh my gosh!" So yeah, it was fun.
What was your favorite song to cover?
It's funny. The one that comes to mind was actually a stressful situation. I loved doing Talking in Your Sleep as the end product because it kind of gave me a confidence in myself. It's a very easy song to sing. It's not very high. It's not super challenging. But I woke up with a cold and no voice. So when I went to the studio, I was like, oh boy, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what are we going to do? Maybe I need to come back a different day. Maybe there's no Mitzi on the show tape. Like, if they're under the gun with the deadline, because I was really sick and really didn't have a voice. And it was one of those cases as a very young person where I learned the show must go on, and my work ethic kicked in, and I recorded it. And it actually kind of sounds cool with a cold.
Was there a song that you remember covering that you really didn't like?
It was Don't Make Me Shy, Don't Make Me Blue, because I love only you. It's one with Fats that was just kind of an old-fashioned song where she's like nagging at him a little bit, and I didn't relate to that. I wasn't familiar with that kind of music, and I didn't relate to it. Really, anything from like the 50s or the 60s, even like the old Boyfriend's Back kind of stuff, or Beatles things, I related to. Anything that was like older than that, I was like blue. They would sometimes do like an old blues song or something. I wasn't super, like even old Black Magic, those kinds of things I wasn't super familiar with. So it wasn't really a question of not liking it. I just didn't really have a frame of reference. Like, I'd never heard it before in my life. And I had a pretty good musical library because I was doing band gigs with my parents. So it really was less about what I didn't like and more about the unfamiliar.
Yeah. Was there ever a song you wanted to cover but never got to it?
Oh gosh. It was really, I considered Madonna kind of a guilty pleasure back as a teen, where I knew she wasn't an amazing vocalist, but her songs were just so catchy and so fun that Get Into the Groove would have been one that I would love to have done. And I remember even playing it for Aaron at one point, being like, this is my favorite song right now. So I think probably anything Madonna during that era, and I would have gotten excited. I really loved getting to we did the Grammy show tape of Grammys like across the years, but then I Want to Dance with Somebody was new. And which lets you know how long ago that was. But I Want to Dance with Somebody was new. And I felt really lucky that I got to do such a current pop song.
How do you feel knowing that Mitzi has made an impact on young girls since the 80s?
I love that because Mitzi is so closely tied to who I am. And I hope in the performances, because I was never putting on anything, she was just me talking about my day, or me talking about, the guys really would get a kick out of it. They would, before we would even record sketches or things, they would kind of poke and prod about what my life was like at the time, or friendships and boyfriends and those kinds of things. I was going through very natural things for a preteen and a teenager at that time. And even like, oh, my friend's mad at me, and, these kinds of things. And so it really was genuine. And so it means a lot to me that basically if you grew up with Mitzi, or if you discovered Mitzi later on, we still kind of grew up together.
Yeah. Do you think voicing Mitzi has helped your career and in getting opportunities?
It really did, especially during that time frame where I was a teenager, and that was like the first really big credit that I had. It definitely was a door opener, just the one sentence of, yeah, this is Shalisa, and she's the voice of Mitzi nationwide at All Showbiz Pizzas. She records the show tapes, because it's a little bit of a tricky thing to understand. It's like, is she in the costume dancing around at Showbiz? No. She's actually like recorded, and she's duplicated in all the show business. So, a 1 or 2 sentence introduction of it's a recording deal that she has was a really cool door opener, particularly for recording projects and voiceover projects. And as I got older, it became less of a door opener and more of a novelty of an, oh my gosh, I've been working with you, or I've known you. And this even happened after I posted the Volo video of how many years have I known you or worked with you, and you were part of my childhood and I had no idea. And so it became a novelty the older I got, but it definitely was a door opener as I was starting out in the industry.
Do you think that in the future you would plan on still voicing Mitzi?
As long as there's an opportunity, I will be there. I move heaven and earth to try to be there. Even the Volo opportunity was incredible, and I already had plans. I was in San Antonio, Texas, the day before, but I went straight from San Antonio. I live in Florida, and I went straight from this conference in San Antonio up to Volo because I was like, I have to do this. This is such a great opportunity. Any chance I get to visit Mitzi, and any chance I get to visit her in the recording studio. We've even had times where it hasn't been like a public show, but somebody may have like a private show of, a private set of characters, or even just voiceover wise, they would want the characters to say happy birthday, or they'd want the characters to do a particular song. You can ask Erin or anybody else in the project, but I really am nostalgic about Mitzi and will love visiting her any chance I get.
I really think it would be kind of weird to have someone else voice Mitzi after you, just because you've been doing it for so long, and I feel like you've really made Mitzi who she is.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What was your favorite memory voicing Mitzi?
I think the most poignant one was whenever we were doing Over the Rainbow. I don't know if you remember, have you ever heard that recording? Mm-hmm. So when we did Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Erin wanted to really set the stage for it. And it was back when there were times where we did a less formal studio setting, like at his house, or a little bit more of like a round table studio setting where it wasn't like the big, 48 track board and the big, beautiful studio. But very early on, it was all the bells and whistles. So for me as a little kid, getting to be in that studio setting to begin with was amazing. And Over the Rainbow was pretty early on. It was in the first year of my getting to be Mitzi. But I remember he really set the stage for it and didn't want it to be like cutesy, sing-songy, but wanted to be super heartfelt. And I remember coming in from school, and it's almost like, culture shock. Going from, loud, bright hustle bustle of middle school to I walked into the studio and it was cool, and he'd actually turned the lights dimmed. He had a dimmer switch and he had turned the lights on a dimmer. And my parents and I walked in and it was like, ooh, ah, with all the, the beautiful studio bells and whistles. And it was set just for me. No one else was there that day. Just my parent and me, and I got to record in what could have been state of the art. I could have done an album there, but it was just a really beautiful moment. For the table was set for me when I walked in, and it was just this really cool time of like, wow, they're doing all of this for me, and I had this incredible opportunity, even though I'm just 11 or 12 at the time, to sing for this character.
Okay, so it's made pretty clear that Mitzi is a pretty big Michael Jackson fan. What about you?
Love Michael Jackson, and keeping in mind that the heyday of Michael Jackson was the Rock-afire heyday. So even if you look at the timeline, the 80s were like he was just larger than life. Mm-hmm. And you probably know this already, but we did the Michael Jackson show tape. Mm-hmm. And before it was released, he would come to Orlando really often. He had a suite at this hotel called the Royal Plaza at Lake Buena Vista, and everybody in town knew that he was a frequent visitor. Well, we had a friend Aaron had a friend in common with Michael that was on tour with him and helping out with his tour managing. He got Michael to come in and at one of the plants where they had a show tape totally set up, and Michael got to preview the Michael Jackson tribute. So there's a picture of all of us watching the show with Michael. And I'll never forget, for as long as I live, I brought my Thriller album and he autographed it for me.
Aww.
And then at the end of everything, they were introducing him. They were introducing me, and he actually came up to me and he said, "You know, you remind me a lot of myself when I was your age. Your voice reminds me a lot of," and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." Because I got to do on the show tape, I wasn't doing the current Michael Thriller hits or even the off the wall hits. I was doing the ABC, the older Jackson 5 hits. So it really meant the world to me, and what an incredible opportunity I think I was 12 or I was 13. So at 13, to be able to hear that from Michael Jackson, the opportunity to be in the room with him, like unreal. And that was Mitzi. Mitzi gave me the opportunity to meet Michael Jackson.
That's really heartfelt. I love that.
Yeah.
Did you like really see yourself in Mitzi, especially in your younger years?
I did, but here's a funny little tidbit. I was afraid of her.
Oh, really?
As a robot, yes. I have a lot of like unusual phobias. Fun fact, I'm afraid to light a match. I've never lit a match. Or like lit a fire in a fireplace or anything, lit a birthday cake candle in all my years. I'm afraid of taxidermy, animal heads on the wall. I was afraid as a small child of characters like at Disney, like I'd hide and everything. So meeting the animatronics, even though I was already 11, being in the room with the animatronics kind of freaked me out the first few years. So I loved her. And I would often get asked to pose with her. And I was a little scared of her. I was a little scared of the interaction physically, of like maybe getting, hit by one of the pom-poms. But I was also just that same phobia of being freaked out or creeped out by something that feels like it's a living thing but isn't. There's Five Nights at Freddy's for a reason. There is a little bit of a scary element to it. So it took me a few years to get over my phobia. So I was probably, even when we did these conventions. I don't know if you know about this little sidebar, but we did conventions called IAPA, which is International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. Well, Creative Engineering had some characters on display to showcase what they do for IAPA. And 2 different years, they had me go along and sing on stage with the characters. The first time I did it, I was 12, and they were Wizard of Oz characters, and I was really scared of them the whole time. Even though I was on stage with them, I would like kind of back up into it and be like, okay, I'm here now. I'm looking forward. I'm in a spot where they can't touch me. By the time I was 15, I was turning 15 the week we did IAPA with the Moon Rockers. And Creative Engineering. Are you familiar with this at all? Creative Engineering produced the Moon Rockers, and I was like just the girl from the moon and the girl from the city inside the moon. By that time, I was kind of getting used to them, and I was like, okay, I'm old enough, and this looks ridiculous. I can't be afraid of these characters. So by then, I was doing all right. But for Mitzi, it took me. I remember posing with her, even when I was like 13, and being a little like, But I loved watching her, and I loved watching my voice come out of her mouth. It was just mind blowing. Like it took me years to get used to it.
I feel like for the 80s, that's really advanced technology.
It was, and I don't know how much you know about it or you've read about it, but Creative Engineering was really on the cutting edge as far as mobility for these characters. They really were doing an amazing job of making them realistic.
Yeah, I mean, like, I really love the Rock-afire, and, in learning about the Rock-afire, I've also learned more about Chuck E. Cheese, and I feel like creative engineering is a lot better than the Chuck E. Cheese bots.
It's funny, it was such a rivalry, and then Showbiz bought Chuck E. Cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had a situation with creative where they ended up, after having the Rockefeller characters, ended up, because of licensing issues or business things that I didn't understand or even really want to know much about, it was just kind of spoiling my fun. They ended up using the Chuck E. Cheese characters after the merger, after a few years. And it was really disappointing because not only were they more like little kiddish, but the technology wasn't as advanced as it was at creative.
Yeah.
So as Mitzi, I was disappointed professionally, but also as a fan of Showbiz Pizza, I was also disappointed just as a Rockefeller fan.
Yeah.
Even if I had never voiced Mitzi, I just always thought it was so cool because it was so layered. They were appealing to kids and to adults, even in the music we were recording and the realistic way they moved and the realistic way we were voicing the characters.
Like, the only complaints I've ever heard about the Rockefeller, especially in, like, the Showbiz days, is that they just scared people because they were animatronics. Like, other than that, they don't really have...
That was me, too.
Yeah.
It was me, too.
I mean, other than that, they don't really have any other complaints.
It was a really quality product. I always say it was so much better than it had to be.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot of soul and, like, a lot of creativity put into it.
There really was.
Have you actually ever been into a showbiz before?
Oh, yeah. I used to go all the time. I would pop in, just on a Saturday with friends or something, and I'd be like, come hear me sing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And sometimes when there were new show tapes or even like new initiatives, like the Colander Head Nights and things, the whole cast would go. The flagship was kind of the Altamont Springs Showbiz Pizza here in Central Florida in Orlando. So we would have outings where all the characters would be there. Nobody would know who they were, which that was really fun.
That's like such a... Like, I don't even know how to explain it. That's like such an experience of like a lifetime.
It was an incredible way to grow up, and I feel very blessed.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions. But
you've done such an amazing job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Sure thing. It's been my privilege and my pleasure.
I've been a really big fan of Mitzi for a while, and it's just so awesome to be able to talk to you.
Well, thank you, and thanks for reaching out, and best of luck with the videos, and best of luck with all your creative endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Stay in touch.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.